And if you're not careful, what just became of, getting this done to get other stuff done, all of a sudden, but I got to do this. I'll spend time with God tomorrow, or I'll give up my time with the Lord because I need to do this. And it seems more urgent because I have a deadline. And it can quickly shift into compromising on things that we know has to be the core and the foundation of our spiritual walk and us as leaders.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Follow to Lead podcast, a Christian leaders podcast powered by EBEB Solutions, energy benefits for every business. Go to ebebsolutions.com today and get your free energy audit. It will literally save you time and money. Friends, today on the podcast, I was on location in South Africa. What an amazing trip it was, and I can't wait for you to meet my friend Claire. Claire Kriel is the founder and instigator of Lydia's mission. We're going to talk all about her ministry, about what that means, about what it looks like. We talk about faithful presence, obedience, going up against broken systems, and how do we navigate those tensions. I think you're going to find a ton of wisdom from this conversation with my friend Claire. Also, today in the show notes, you're going to see a link to my climb of Mount Kilimanjaro. That's right. In 2027, I'm going to the top of Kilimanjaro, Lord willing, and I'm doing it to help support Lydia's mission. I'm excited for you to learn more about that. There's a link in the show notes. If you feel called to support this, please consider leaning in and giving to this cause. We want to raise support for 1,000 kids. So that means everybody's got to do their part. And if nothing else, please throw up some extra prayers for what God is doing in and through this ministry. So now, here's a quick word from our partners in my conversation with Claire. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited today to be on location in South Africa with my dear friend, Claire. Claire, thank you so much for letting us come into your home.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for making the flight over.
It's a 16-hour flight. How many times do you think you've made it in your life?
Oh, a lot. But I sleep like 14 of the 16 hours, so it's
That's
great.
A real gift.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, this year we're starting the conversation with every leader with a different question every month, the most Googled leadership questions. This month, we're asking our leaders about skills. So I want to ask you, as a leader, one of the top employers in the area, you've been leading people for a long time. What would you say the most important skill for a leader is?
So obviously I'm coming in on the younger side of leadership. I didn't have a lot of life experiences coming in. I came to Africa as a missionary straight out of university. I was always kind of given the title born leader growing up, and I did student council and things like that. But I kind of had to learn as I went. And so for me, it wasn't coming in with this overconfidence of I know everything I'm doing. I'm growing as a leader as I develop. And so for me, it's just coming in as like humble humility of just going to even my leadership team each week and saying, guys, I don't have this all figured out. And I'm going to be honest when I make mistakes. And if it's not going well, I want you to hold me accountable. I don't want them to ever feel like I'm better than them, or I have it all figured out, or they can't approach me and hold me accountable. But, sometimes I think leaders get a bad rap of, hey, they're the big shot. They got it all figured out. And it becomes a pride thing. And so I've tried to really relinquish and being humble and saying, guys, I've made mistakes too. I'm human. I'm flesh just like you are. And we're only going to do this together well is if we hold each other up and we push on together.
I love that approach. I think it models what we see in biblical leadership, obviously. Mm-hmm. One of the questions that I know a lot of leaders have is how do you stay humble when you have the kind of hockey stick growth that you've experienced in a ministry like this? For size sake, would you tell everybody kind of how the vastness of your ministry in terms of maybe revenue, number of employees, or number of lives touched in a month? How would you put all that into kind of perspective?
Yeah. So I've been in South Africa for 11 years and started Lydia's mission really officially about 8-9 years ago. And from that time, we went from 0 employees to a trip to the garbage dump where the ladies broke my heart there because they were fighting over my trash because the monkeys were tearing it apart. And so out of my human frustration, I said, where's the garbage dump? So right there alone, I wasn't looking for a big leadership platform. I was just trying to get rid of my trash and was being human and fleshly and complaining the entire drive into town. but it was where God got a hold. And as God gets a hold, anything can happen, you know? And so I think through that whole time, it was just me being obedient to God that he then continued to grow. And the bigger it got, there was times that I just said, oh God, I don't know if I can do this. Like my plate's too full, or I'm on my own, or there's a big gap between what I need help with and what I'm able to get help with some of my local staff, because most of my staff has been hired out of the garbage dump. Some can't read or write, don't have that level of education. Some aren't able to use a computer. They didn't know how to drive in the beginning. And so there was this big gap of just feeling inadequate. But the more I felt inadequate, the more I felt that, hey, I don't have this all figured out, the more I was able to lean on God and know that it truly only happened because of God's strength. And so I knew if I ran this ministry by myself, it would have failed a long time ago. But it's only because of the love of God and his direction and his wisdom that it has become what it is today. So what is today? So we have about a 53-acre farm. That is our ministry center. We have 73 employees across our different Hope Centers, which is our kids program, where they come 5 days a week, get a meal, once a week, get a Bible club so they can learn about Jesus. We do a lot to meet the physical, but as a way and opportunity to meet the spiritual. We have Go-Go Centers, which is Siswati for grandmother, elderly centers. And we have 4 of those, and they get to come, have breakfast and lunch. They get to get socialization. They get to encounter the Lord, have a biblical teaching each week. So all of our staff is kind of makes up those programs. At the Ministry Center Farm, we have gardens and tunnels and greenhouses and a sewing project and chickens. And that's what the staff helps manage. But in there, we have 2,000 kids a day that we're feeding and sharing Christ with, 450 elderly, and then our 73 staff. That all started with that trip to the dump. And then eventually one employee, hearing their needs, hearing their desires, hearing, hey, what do you need to love on your family, to do life? Life is hard. So how can I come alongside you? Not fix your life, not say, hey, I got this all figured out, now I'm going to teach you. No, it was sitting and listening and being humble to hear, hey, we battle as moms to know how to feed our kids. And it breaks our heart when our kids go to bed hungry. And so then we started adding the Hope Centers. And as they got older, or they had parents still that were alive, it breaks our heart because we don't know how we're going to survive if we retire, or I'm struggling to care for my elderly parent. Then we looked at adding the Go-Go Centers. As the recycling truck didn't come because the ladies didn't get a payable wage by being at the dump, they got their weight based on the weight of what they recycled. So, I mean, pounds and pounds of cardboard, they got less than 1 US penny.
Wow.
And from then I said, oh, we need to find some way to create some sort of jobs for them. And so it was through that it kind of naturally happened, but it was willing to sit in the struggle with them. Not this, I'm going to look down upon you, but I want to hear your struggle. Let's do life together. And so that's kind of a little bit of a synopsis of Lydia's mission and what it has now grown into. But it was that humble beginning of sitting amongst the piles of trash that were smelly, sometimes so many flies on my Bible, I couldn't even read what I was trying to share scriptural wise to them without waving my hand, but just hearing their hearts. And what broke their heart is what broke my heart, because it broke God's heart. And it was meeting them there.
Oh, what's interesting about your story is that you wanted to be a missionary at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
I have the privilege of knowing your dad, an incredible man. And I've heard your story about being a missionary. I also know you didn't start here in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You started in Ethiopia, is that right?
Yep.
And one of the questions that our mutual friend Mitch asked me to ask you was about eating in Ethiopia specifically. I'm wondering if you could share that journey a little bit, and also what pulled you out. How did you know when it was time to retreat? Because retreat is not a word that I would associate with you very often.
Yeah.
But yet it was clear God called you away from Ethiopia to eventually start here. But fill us in on those details and give us that story that Mitch really wants to hear.
Yeah. Gotta love Mitch. Yeah. So from a very young age, like young as 10, I think I told my parents I want to move to Africa and I want to study the monkeys.
Sure.
And my mom's like, we know no one in Africa. And okay, this is kind of a childish dream of monkeys. And so eventually the monkey part went away. So I said I was half right in this, but moved to Africa. So I looked for a team organization because I was fresh out of university, wound up in Ethiopia. There was a spot on a team there, and just fell in love with the people and fell in love with the culture. Inconsistent power and electricity. So I began just eating down at the local restaurant there that they had, and they'd bring it around, and I just had fellowship. They put one big plate of what they call injera. It's like a pancake but sour, and then they put all the food on top of it, and you all sit around in a circle and share this common plate. And you all use your right hand because your left hand is for down there business, but you all use your right hand, but you have that commonality around the table of fellowship. So again, it was meeting people where they're at, doing life with them to encounter. And so love the people, love the culture. It was city slum. And so it was hard to stay healthy. So I don't know.
City slum. I define that for me.
A lot of thousands, if not millions of people in a square mile.
Just stacked on top of each
other. No sewage system, 12, 13 days, no electricity. Then it'd come on a day, maybe 10 days, no water. Then it'd come on for a day. Just really rough rural conditions and people on top of people. For some reason, God uses me in garbage dumps. So I did garbage dump ministry there as well. And these people literally on the mounds of trash had built their plastic hut of houses.
Wow.
Literally in the garbage dump. And so it was just in those moments that it was a rough living conditions that my body could not physically stay healthy. And so I got medically evac twice back to America in that year.
Wow.
But I just had this nagging feeling God was not done with me in Africa yet. And so I just kept leaning into that. And I had some friends down in South Africa, and I came to visit when I was renewing my visa at the time before I went back again.
Now that's Mitch, right? Mitch and Shar.
Yeah, I met Mitch and Shar down in South Africa.
Okay, got it. So Mitch has been on the podcast. We'll link to that.
Yes.
Be sure to go back and listen to that. We'll link to that in the show notes. So you found friends, you came to South Africa, and
it not only physically, because obviously you can kind of see in the background behind me, it was a breath of fresh air, both physically, spiritually, emotionally, of just everything that I had gone through in Ethiopia. Again, love the people, but I was a single missionary living by myself. I was getting death threats for sharing the gospel. And I really had that significant event of my life of, am I going to be all in, even if it means I could get killed tomorrow?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, it took me 2-3 days of locking myself in my house, not going out, till I got the courage to say, what am I doing? If I'm going to hide in my house, why am I even here? And it was in that moments that God drastically changed the direction of my life, that I said, you know what? I'm all in. I'm all in if that means death tomorrow, because I know where I'm going to be. Yeah. I know my Savior. And so kind of a mixture between that and not being healthy, that I just felt like the Lord was not finished with me in Africa. So kind of through all that, I wrapped up my time in Ethiopia, just again, not being super healthy, and ended up getting a visa, coming down to South Africa, and worked alongside another ministry for a while until God really redefined what he wanted. And my deep passion from the Lord is women's ministry, is elderly ministry. And so I've just taken that and run with it as he's laid out these different things of using our human earthly frustrations to end up in a garbage dump of all places. And that's where the ministry started.
I think a lot of leaders will resonate with your courage, because I think most executives and entrepreneurs, they have to step out on faith eventually. One of the things that I love to ask high caliber leaders is discerning God's voice, right? Moving to South Africa, big move, but buying a farm, big move. Your ministry is built on these big, huge, bold moves. How do you know when it's God and not the burrito you ate the night before?
I wish they had active burritos in South Africa. I love a good burrito.
I was going to think of I can't remember the term of the South African food we ate while we were here. What's it called?
Maize meal or millie pop.
Yeah, I was like that maize meal. I was just going to say maize meal, but I couldn't pull it off.
It's all good. We'll go with burrito. I do have dreams about Mexican food and then I get sad when I wake up. But I think just for me, a lot of times I get a lot of dreams from the Lord, and it's very specific. But when I tend to think, okay, well, maybe that was something else. Maybe that wasn't the voice of God. I ask him, and I just spend time in prayer and just say, God, define that more. Show me that more. Let it be so evident that it is your voice and not mine, or not what I ate, that I know that it's you. When it came to buying this ministry center farm, I had about 12 dreams over the course of 9 months, down to specific buildings and what they would look like, to specific projects, to specific space, that it was undeniably the voice of God. And so I think some of that is just that raw, utter dependence on him. And then just say, God, I'm not sure. I don't have this all figured out. Okay, was that really you or not? I think sometimes people feel like they have to have it all together and they have to have this perfect laid out prayer and have to sound so elegant, but God knows everything already. So why not go to God and say, God, I'm really struggling with this. Hey, I'm so caught up in this sin. I don't know how to get out of it on my own, because he knows. And so I think some of that is just how I've really discerned his voice. Now, as we've grown as an organization, I have an amazing group of board members that help help people that are mentoring me, that I can kind of go back and forth about these things as well, just to fact check what I feel like God is calling you to make sure it's not too much ministry drift, and it's staying in line of keeping the main thing. But yeah, that's kind of the voice from the Lord and how he speaks to me.
I love that. I think that there's a lot of value in making a decision and then making it right. But one of the things that I also really appreciate, walking the farm with you, hearing your story, going to the Hope Centers, the Go-Go Centers, and learning is that you're not afraid to test things.
Yeah.
So talk to the leaders who are listening right now who maybe don't have a kind of a sense of what that could look like in their life. How do you test whether or not you're being called to this area, or you should make this next bold move, or plant a new crop, or do these things?
Yeah. So everything that we do a small test first. So for us, like if we're going to try, say, the chicken project, we have layers for eggs that we sell as a job creation and an income generating for the ministry. So what we do, so we didn't go in and say, hey, we're going to get 2,500 chickens the very first time. I said, let's start small. So my small tends to be a little bit bigger than others, is at least what my mom tells me. So my small start was 250 chickens. Some people maybe would have started with 10, but I went with 250
That's
chickens.
a lot of chickens.
And that was my small start. But I said, let's try this. Let's see what the input costs are. Let's see what the data is. Let's see how much care it really takes. Because I grew up in warm and cheerful Centerville, a city suburb, basically. We didn't have chickens. I don't even think you're allowed to within city limits. But so I learned these things as I went. And I laugh, in the beginning, I was so much a student by night through internet and through researching and asking people, and then teacher by the next morning as I taught the ladies on what to do and how to do it, because I didn't have that knowledge to lay back on. And that's why I said, as much as I didn't come in with all this wealth of knowledge, I hadn't run a nonprofit before. I had a dream and a hope from before I went to university that I felt like God was calling me to plant a nonprofit, but I was still praying of what that looked like. Yeah. But I didn't have that knowledge. So I started small. And after a while we say, okay, hey, we're actually making some income. We're finding customers to sell the eggs. So it's worth now growing it. But I'm also the first one to say, if something's not working, don't just keep doing it out of fear of, oh, I maybe lose a donor, or what would people think, or would this hurt the nonprofit if people hear, oh, I started something and I stopped something. If it's not working, I'm quick to say, okay, let's either revisit that at a later date. Let's shift maybe what that may look like, or, hey, this isn't going to be the right thing. And so over time, we've been able to do those things. So we're not just pouring money into a project that isn't going to work just because we're too scared to either go back to the donor or say, hey, this isn't quite going to work.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to do what's in your power. You can't just sit back and not care for the chickens and say, oh, well, that failed. You have to take that initiative. You have to take that responsibility as a leader, to do the things that you need to do, the research and all of that. But if it's not right, why pursue it, And so obviously gave a little window of that. And so we just try to make most of the resources we have, especially because as a nonprofit, we are donor-based. And so we want to be responsible with the things that God has given us. So from using the chicken manure and making compost piles and putting it back into our gardens and tunnels, to every dollar that we get is being responsible. That are we glorifying the kingdom of God? And are we helping grow it? Are we helping point people to Jesus? Yes, sometimes meeting the physical, but as a way, an opportunity to build that trust to meet the spiritual. And if we're not, then we need to relook at it.
Yeah, that's so good. I want to talk a little bit about empathy. A lot of leaders struggle when their staff have needs. And coming here and hearing your story and meeting your staff, who are wonderful, what you quickly realize is they have needs, not just like needs, but they've got like, my roof is leaking down the middle, the house is leaking down the middle of my house needs. Yeah. Yet you meet a lot of needs in the community,
Yeah.
and you give them a wage that is better than most for this area,
Yeah.
right? And how do you lead your team in that tension?
Yeah. I had to wrestle with in the beginning of there's a fine line between trying to help and serve and trying to be God.
Mm.
And as soon as I realized I can't be God to everyone, I can't fix everyone's problems. I'm not the walking ATM where they can say the right things and just get everything out from what they wish and desire for. Not a genie in a bottle, you know?
Right.
And the more I've kind of worked through that as well, because I did wrestle when I felt like I had to say no. Saying no is definitely one of my more weaknesses as a leader that I'm working on and growing on. But I also know that, okay, long term, how are we helping? How are we empowering, not enabling? You know, it's the teach a man to fish or give him a fish. You know, yes, that person may be hungry today. You could give them a fish, but tomorrow they're going to come right back. So some of the needs of the staff and some of the needs in the community, we have to look longer picture. Are we enabling? Or are we helping equip them to help themselves in the future? It's a lot of Toxic Charity or When Helping Hurts. Those books is kind of our model because we have learned that. But there's definitely times that I do feel helpless. And it's hard as a leader to know then, how do you help? But it's also not taking away the strength of prayer, the strength of our God. There's way God can provide for them way more than I ever could even imagine of helping them. But it's also pointing it back to him. Because I hear so many times, we'll go to the church dump and on Wednesdays and they'll just sit here and say, oh, Claire, I need a job. You're the only one who can give me a job. You're the only one who can provide for my family. And I'm like, whoa, I need to stop you right there. Because here's the thing. If you're thinking I'm only the one who can provide for you and your family and I'm the only option for employment, we need to back up and say, what is God and who is God? Because you're trying to put me in a place of God and I will fail you. I am human. I am fleshly. I am full of sins. And as hard as I try to help, there's times that it doesn't come across that way because I'm human.
Yeah.
You know, I live in a fallen world. But if I can shift that of, hey, instead of trusting me, how can we get you to trust God? Have you prayed about this? Can we pray together about this? Can we stand in faith? Do you have faith? Is your faith only in me? Let's figure out how to put our faith in God and who God is. That's when it helps shifting that. I help where I can, obviously. I sit and I listen a lot. On a daily basis, I get asked for a job. I used to say before I got married, every day it's a new scorecard. I get at least 1 point on every side. Ask for a job or get proposed to in marriage. So it happens quite often. So I always said to men that I knew, hey, you'll have a lot more success rate if you know the woman's name before proposing. So, but it was just one of those things. So it's natural for them to see a white person and to say, oh, they have everything, or to hear about the ministry and how much we're doing and just say, oh, if only I could go and ask her this, she'll help me solve everything. But the more you give into that, you're enabling and you're taking their eyes off of God and they're trying to fill you with God's role. So it's reteaching them that, re-guiding them back into what God has for them, not what Claire has for them.
That's so good. You mentioned marriage. So I want to talk about that for just a minute. You've married an incredible man, Sean, who's become a friend of mine, and so grateful to get to know him and you together. One of the interesting parts about your marriage is that your home is also on the farm, and it's a part of the gig. And I know a lot of leaders who are listening right now who struggle with boundaries, who struggle with how to protect their marriage, who struggle with all of those things. So I'm curious, what are the activities, the tools, what can we steal from you that maybe is working or is not working?
Yeah.
And learn how to honor our family and our covenant and also the work that God's called us to.
For sure. Yeah, this is definitely an aspect of my life that is a work in progress. So I don't think I have the magic solution by any means. Some seasons I'm better at it than others. Where you live, where you quote unquote work, it's hard to set healthy boundaries. Now, and you just think, oh, let me just get caught up on this. Oh, it's Saturday. Let me just go to the office, which is on the other side of the property, but still on the property. Oh, if I could just get caught up, I would just feel so much better. And then I could lead so much better this coming week because I won't be distracted with all this to-do list or whatever it may be. But the reality is it's never going to stop.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, what just became of, getting this done to get other stuff done, all of a sudden, but I got to do this. I'll spend time with God tomorrow, or I'll give up my time with the Lord because I need to do this. And it seems more urgent because I have a deadline. And it can quickly shift into compromising on things that we know has to be the core and the foundation of our spiritual walk and us as leaders. And so then I'm not adequately preparing for my leadership team or adequately preparing when I go ahead and meet with the ladies that I'm discipling. And all of a sudden, it's basically just going through the motions then because of not having those healthy boundaries. And so it's how do you have those healthy boundaries? Not trying to be Jesus, not trying to be a people pleaser, which is also a challenge sometimes as leaders because we feel like we have to please everyone, especially as a nonprofit that's donor based. You feel like, but I have to get back to that donor in a timely manner. So I do that instead of resting. Right. And it's hard, but now I'm married and one of our two daughters lives with us and they want time with their wife, with their mom. They want time together as well. So how do I not push my family aside because now I'm leading and I'm the big leader that has to do this. And so it's, like I said, some seasons are better than others, but it's trying to make those healthy boundaries of, hey, certain times at night, I just need to put the laptop away. I just need to say, you know what, that's good enough for today. Some days it's bad. It's 12 plus hours. Other days it's like, okay, I need to scale back. I've learned for me and Sean, we need at least once a quarter to, even if it's a day, to get off the property, go somewhere else, stay somewhere else. That's good. To remove ourselves, because with Sean also on doing ministry, he's farm manager. He kind of helps run the ministry center. And then I do everything with Lydia's mission that we do. It's one of those, it's too easy to come home and just continue the conversation of what has to be done. Yeah. There isn't that healthy separation because now we're both all in, so we're neck deep in the water of Lydia's mission every single day and trying to lead well and trying to grow and to develop this and to share Christ in the process. And now we're supposed to just walk a few feet into our house, so like I said, it's an ongoing challenge, but my biggest thing is try to keep your priorities right. Yeah. Keep God first. Keep the heart there. And God knows, and he gives us grace where we need it. There's going to be days that I fail at it. There's going to be days that I'm not the best wife, and I should have been more present with my daughter, and I should have been more patient, or I should have been more fill in the blank. But it doesn't mean tomorrow's not a new day with a new slate, with lots of grace from the Lord to try to be a better leader, try to be a better wife, try to be a better mom than I was the day before.
One of the things that we say around here a lot is that if you aren't dedicated to your disciplines, you'll be destroyed by your distractions. Do you have any go-to disciplines that we can steal from you?
Go-to disciplines?
I mean, obviously time in the Word and prayer. Yeah. You're already a prayer warrior. Yeah, are there any rhythms around that are like, this is what really fills up my cup?
Yeah. One thing I've kind of initiated with the staff is every single morning we start with a song or two of worship and prayer. And not only has that been great for my heart, but I've seen it as the impact of the staff as well. So it's just every single moment, every single day we start, let's put our focus to God first. Yeah. And we have fun with it. We dance, we sing, we laugh. It's beautiful. But it isn't just jump into what has to get done and then think about God when you have time. Or think about growing yourself spiritually or as a leader when you have time. Because if you do that, it becomes just work. It's going to take the joy of the Lord out of all of it. Because now it's just, my to-do list is too long. Let me rush through my to-do list. And in those moments is when I also feel that my joy is gone and I can't lead from a position without joy. Yeah. And my leaders have seen that in different seasons and have called me out on that. And I love that they felt like they could to say, where's your joy gone? You need to work on restoring your joy. And so for me, it's taking some time. For me, I love to draw. It takes enough of my brain that I'm not thinking of the 27 things I need to do, but it's an outlet for me. So I'm not just sitting and thinking of everything I should be doing and then feeling guilty, but I find some healthy outlet that helps you, that renews you, that replenishes you. So it's not just, okay, yes, you may have sat on the couch and rested, or you may have gone with your family to go somewhere, but if your brain is still running a million miles a minute about what you left at the office or what you left at the church or whatever it may be, you're not resting and you're not being present where you are with the people that are surrounding you either. I can be home with Sean, but if my brain's not there because it's running everything else still that I'm still doing throughout the day, I'm missing that time and that being intentional. And so even in home visits, we're intentional in that moment. It's easy to get distracted by the phone. It's easy to get distracted what we have to do next, but value someone enough to be present with them, to sit, to hear their story, to pray with them, and then deal with what's next on your plate.
So good. Okay. One thing I know about my community is that they love to pray. And so when they think about Lydia's mission, we call them the bold ones. What can the bold ones pray for?
Yeah, I think just continue that wisdom and direction from the Lord to lead well and to kind of steer the boat in the right direction. We kind of have our 3 key pillars at Lydia's mission. One is leadership development. And so trying to love on leaders that don't feel like they are leaders. And we are in our leadership team, we are mixing 3 different cultures. Some days it feels like a fish swimming upstream because we come from such different cultures and backgrounds and languages. And so right along there, it's only God that it's working well. But it's just continue to pray for the wisdom within that, for the trust, for the harmony, for the unity as that group goes and develops, as we go and they help train up leaders. They try to empower. They see people and say, hey, it's worth me investing in. That's an ongoing discipleship making. And that's where I feel like we're going into this year, because last year was a lot about developing them as a leader. Now they see themselves as a leader. So now it's taking it to the next level. And so just prayer on that. I think just wisdom and direction. Also just that we can really, truly impact for the kingdom. You know, it's one thing to say we feed this many kids a day or so many accepted Christ, and that's a great decision that they're making. But if it's so focused about the numbers, we're missing the heart.
Yeah.
And it's about the heart. It's not just a name, or it's not just a number on our Excel spreadsheet or of our registrars. It's about the name. It's about the story. It's about where they are in life and sitting and caring enough about them to say, I want to listen. And so I think just giving us the time and space, because we have grown quite rapidly. And sometimes then it becomes the busyness of the ministry than it does about the ministry itself that's happening. And so I think just prayers over that. And right now I've been waiting about 4 years for a visa renewal. So we'd love just prayers for that, just to continue to make that possible. But I trust that the Lord will provide that when and how he wants it to happen. And so definitely standing on faith and hoping that will come through soon.
One of the beautiful things about Lydia's mission is that if you're interested in learning more, you guys have so many different outlets to do that, including coming to South Africa and being on a team, kind of getting a glimpse of what God is doing here. How can people learn more about the ministry and about getting on a team? And then I have one more question for you as we wrap up.
Yeah, for sure. The easiest way is to go to our website, lydiasmission.org. You can hear more stories. We have some videos on there about the different aspects of ministry that we're doing. You can learn more that way. Also on Facebook and Instagram under Lydia's Mission. You can kind of get every day or a couple day updates of some different projects that are going on. There's a contact us on our website too. Reach out to us via the Facebook Messenger or Instagram inbox. We'd love to connect with you, whether it is coming on a trip, getting involved, or just want to talk through where you are in faith and how can we develop you. Just because we're here in South Africa does not mean that is our only mission field. Our mission field is wherever the Lord has us and wherever door and opportunity that we have. So I like to say, I'm not just a Christian when I'm here around my staff, or I'm here when I'm leading. I'm a Christian every moment of every day because I am a follower of Jesus and he has my heart. And so I don't just look at my mission field as only South Africa. And so if you want prayer, message me. I'd love to pray for you and be a part of what God is doing in your life. And so, yeah, that's the easiest way to kind of reach out to us and get connected. But would love to see people come on teams and join and see firsthand what God is doing. And join the journey.
I'll just echo those sentiments. If you're a regular listener to this podcast, you know that I love to kind of see where God's going to take us, and very fortunate that Karen and I have been here in South Africa.
Yeah.
It's such an incredible ministry, and to see what God is doing through this place and space. So, all right, last question I'm asking people this year is about the greatest leader you've ever known, or your best leader. Who were they? What traits did they have? Tell us all about when you think through all of your memories. And don't say Jesus. That's a cop-out. Somebody who walked the earth with you. Best leader, go.
Okay, I'm not going to say Jesus, but I am going to go a little bit out of the box.
Okay.
But it is not necessarily someone I did life with.
Okay.
Might throw you for a bit of a spin.
Fair. I love it.
So, when we look at leaders sometimes and we look at who's the best or who's the favorite, I always am just so sensitive about the pride or the status of, are we trying to elevate someone? And so, and maybe I'm sensitive to it because it's something we deal with a lot in the culture. It's a very cultural based status rung of, you want to do everything you can to be better. You want to keep your skin as light as possible. So even in the hot sun, they'll wear long sleeves because it's about that status for them. And so it may surprise you, but sometimes I look at Judas. And why? Because he had the perfect scenario for success. He studied right under Jesus. In the perfect situation, he had Jesus in the flesh. He could ask him anything. He was learning directly from him. Yet he still failed. He still let sin creep in. And obviously we know him and everyone's like, oh yeah, that's the disciple that majorly messed up.
Sure.
But what I learned from him, I think teaches me more than just elevating one other person in something great that they've done. What I've learned from him is that even in the best situations, even in the perfect scenarios, if you are not guarding your heart and keeping focused on Jesus and growing spiritually, no matter how good of a leader you are, that human temptations are going to creep in. So the options of, it wasn't just all of a sudden Judas betrayed Jesus. It started with one little decision, one little thought, one little action, one little hiding sin, secret sin.
Like a resentment or something, right?
Yeah.
Like it builds up.
Yeah. And so for me, the more I've studied the disciples and Jesus and his ministry on earth, the more I'm drawn to those stories of maybe not the best example of a leader, but I'm able to learn from their mistakes to help grow me as a stronger leader of, hey, I need to make sure that it's not becoming, hey, look at me. It's all about me. I got this all figured out. Or, oh, what can I get for me on the side? Or all of that. And that has encouraged me more as a leader than looking at someone who seems like they have it all figured out.
That's good.
Good. And so that's pushed me to be a better leader. And like I said, a little bit atypical of an answer.
I love it. That's a classic Claire answer. I like it already.
Yeah. So
well, thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you
for the hospitality and for your friendship. It's an absolute joy to get to know you and Sean.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I told you guys, what an incredible conversation. I love the farm where Claire does ministry out of. I love her family and just the incredible gift she is to the community. One of the things that I want to do this year is continue to help you lean in to the idea of a coach's question. After listening to this episode, what do you need to apply to your life? And so for this week, the coach's question is this: where do you need to take a bold, faithful step? Not a clean step, not an easy step, but a bold, faithful step. What does it look like for you to do the next big thing? Maybe that's not a Bible study around a dump at a tree in South Africa, but maybe it is talking to a friend about faith, or inviting someone to church, or just inviting someone to lunch, or healing a relationship. Where can you be faithful? That's what this is all about. Faithful steps to joyful obedience. As always, friends, I'm forever thankful for you, our podcast family, the bold ones. If you need anything from me, I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Tony at twmilt.com or on Instagram at twmilt. You can also go to my website, twmilt.com. So until next week, remember, if you want to follow Jesus, you must be willing to move.